Again, welcome, welcome. It's nice to see so many names that are familiar to me. It's wonderful to be here. I feel that I'm with many friends. I'm going to start by reading a quote of Paramahansa Yogananda. Your thoughts will inevitably bring you either to failure or to success, according to which thought is the strongest. Therefore, you must thoroughly believe in your own plans. Use your talents to carry them out and be receptive so that God can work through you. His laws work at all times, and you are always demonstrating success or failure according to the kind of thoughts that you habitually entertain. If your trend of thought is ordinarily negative, an occasional positive thought is not enough to change the vibration to one of success. I thought that reading really encapsulated the reason that we need to have positive thinking and the power of positive thinking. That if we, in the background, constantly have negative thoughts running, and then every once in a while we get up a little affirmation going and put forth a few positive ones, and then we wait to see, okay, now what's going to happen with that affirmation I did? Oh, it didn't work. Well, of course it didn't, because we had 999 negative thoughts going on, and then we put 3 positive ones, and then, yeah, it's not going to go in the right direction. So I think obviously everything that we do at Ananda Sangha, all of the techniques are ones that we can use for success. One of them that I want to speak about, because it can be from experience, is Hong Sa. This morning, Devarshi Ji led some Kriyabans in a 2-hour practice of Hong Sa, because Master said to do that. And I love it when he does that. I love to participate. And so that gives us, it actually is, I do that every once in a while, but today it was a real wake-up call for me of how concentrated am I really? How often is my mind running away from Hong Sa? What is my ability to sit still, completely still for 2 hours, which I'll be honest, today it wasn't all that great. But it's fine that I realize, okay, this is where I am today, and I know that that doesn't define me, that it's simply, it gives me a starting point, a reality check, and then, okay, what can I do to go further with that? But all of that said, Hong Sa builds a tremendous amount of concentration, even if we have not yet perfected it. Because when we do perfect it, it means that we can go breathless and then we go into samadhi. And so wherever we are, there's probably going to be some steps that we're going to take until we achieve samadhi. But as we increase our power of concentration, we certainly then increase our power to be successful at whatever we want. I don't know, I guess there's many different things that motivate people to come on the spiritual path. But once we start deciding that what we really want is God, that's the highest thing that we can ever achieve. And therefore it's going to probably be the most difficult thing to achieve. That God just simply made it that way. Otherwise people would just be popping off into samadhi here and there, and the creation wouldn't go on for very long. That being said, if we set our goal, our will to finding God in this incarnation, then we should be able to achieve anything else we want, because that means that we're dedicating our energies towards achieving whatever we put our mind to. It means that we gain control over our mind. If we're able to control it and keep it just on Hong Sa all of the time, then we easily should be able to control our mind, our energy, and set it so that we can achieve whatever we want. I think this is a very important thing in life, is that so often we all get busy, we're on a phone call, someone says, will you do it? Yes, yes, I'll do it. And then we forget to even write it down. We don't even do it. And the average person in the average world out there, that's just how life is. And then so somebody else calls, and they call back 3 times and they follow up, oh, will you do it? Oh, yes, yes, okay. And then will you do it? Will you do it? Yes, yes. and they just assume that's just how life is. For a yogi, that should not just be how life is. If we say yes, we need to do it. If we're continually just, oh yes, yeah, I'll do it, yeah, and just not paying attention to the power of our word, very quickly our word will have no power. And it would be much more noble, dignified, as well as empowering to, and this is a whole class on itself, but how to politely tell people no, that I can't do that, I won't do that, it's just not going to happen today or whatever, because we know that we're not going to do it. But that will give us much more strength if we can have that honesty with ourselves and with other people. And obviously it's not easy to be truthful like that and to pay that much attention, but it's very important. And then Hong Sa also gives concentration. And concentration is just absolutely, you can't have success without it, because success implies that it's something difficult and that it's something that you're not going to just do with a little bit of energy, with a little bit of time. And concentration means that you can bring back your willpower again and again over a long span of time. Now you might think, well, what does Hong Sa have to do with that? Let's say I'm taking up a 3-year project to build XYZ or to accomplish whatever the thing may be. What does Hong Sa really have to do with that? But if we can learn how to concentrate our mind, let's say for 2 hours, then over the course of 2 years, if we could concentrate our energies on that project every day for 2 hours, we'll be able to achieve anything if we're really concentrated for a few years, even for that period of time. Of course, those periods of time are all just arbitrary. I just made them up. But if otherwise you see people and they say that I'm going to do this with my life, and they spend 30 years at it, and it just goes nowhere. And they're not concentrating for a specific amount of time, and they don't have the power of their word, and they aren't really focused on it. Master said that we could build our willpower by choosing something that's just a little bit bigger than we've done, and then actually doing it, and don't let anything stop you. And that's, again, another tool, another technique there, is to take something that's just a little bit bigger than you, and then set your will and don't stop no matter what. I'm not sure if this is a good point, if it's inspiring, but we all look pretty much the same. I mean, we have 2 eyes, a nose, a mouth, 2 ears, but behind that are people's astral bodies, and those are much, much different. That there's some people who have an astral body that they have consciously been working on for many incarnations, and they can channel the power of the universe to accomplish whatever they want. Being in Swami Kriyananda's even presence, you could feel that he just had something. And then when he turned his gaze on you, and it was power. And then there's other people, they look at you and they're just kind of like asleep, just, you're not even sure, is it hello, or is anybody in there? Knock, knock, are you awake in there? And so we can transform our astral bodies. Again, I could talk about every technique here, but energization, it's not just, something to keep us busy or something. It's not to give us a big Bollywood bicep or something. It's to transform our astral body so that we can channel ultimately the power of the universe into our meditations inwardly. And when we're not sitting still for hours at a time, that we can take that same energy from the entire cosmos, bring it in through the medulla, have it go down and into whatever we're trying to do. And both of those are important. In the Gita, maybe it's in the Gita. I think it's in the Gita. Oh no, which king is that? This thing gets so darn confusing. It was one of Lahiri Mahashaya's incarnations. You start knowing people's other different incarnations, and you really have to figure that out. King Janak. So I believe in the Gita that it says that King Janak achieved liberation by karma yoga alone. And then there's other people, they don't do all that much outward activity. Their activity is more inward. And it's best to have a balanced life and do both. But the point here was, it's that cosmic energy and being able to channel it in a focused way, whether it be outwardly or inwardly. And we shouldn't be afraid to feel that God is there, that God is working through us, that the power of the universe is ours, and that we should try to experiment with it and see what we can do with it. I think so many people are afraid to fail, that they think, well, okay, is all this stuff really true, first of all? And then if it is, and I go and start telling my friends that now I have the power of the universe and I'm going to do da-da-da, and I don't, then all my friends are going to make fun of me. Well, first of all, you don't have to tell all of your friends some big grand thing. In fact, you don't really have to tell anybody anything. But this can be more quiet between you and God, and you can just quietly with God see what you can do. And I only have a few minutes left. And so, right, but if you try to show this off, then your ego will get in the way, and then it's going to cut off that flow of energy. And ultimately what we're working with here is the power of God, which means getting ourselves out of the way, which also means doing things not for personal desire, but because it's the right thing to do. And it's what God wants us to do. So God has a particular song to play through you, particular activities that he wants you to be successful at outwardly, so that you can become a whole soul, in order to rhyme there, but a complete being. But if you try to do other people's dharma, be successful in the way that God intends for other people to be successful, you won't be. So we have to also constantly keep listening to God, and really tune into that and realize that that's the ultimate power for success. And it's not about our will, but about God's will. And in that way, we can become co-creators. And if we understand the way that God is creating, from consciousness to thought to energy to this physical world, if we really can understand that process, then we really can be beautiful creators, because co-creators, I should say, because we understand how it is that he has manifested this entire universe. So study these teachings, understand them, experiment with them, practice, and in the silence of your soul, get in tune and ask God what it is that he wants you to be a success at. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Eddie.
Thank you, Jamal. I really enjoyed that a lot. While Jamal was sharing, I just had this thought going in my mind that the great ones, especially when Jamal was sharing about Swamiji, the great ones emulate a kind of magnetism, a kind of power, which really sets things in alignment and makes success possible. And it may not look like I'm going to talk about success right now, but I will start with a story which started in my brain just now. Was we have read the autobiography of a yogi. We read about Lahiri Mahashaya meeting Babaji, and how Babaji manifested this beautiful golden palace just like that for Lahiri Mahashaya. And there you have it. And Yogananda ji said that all the gurus in this lineage are avatars. So if all are avatars, the power which Babaji had, Yogananda ji also had, Sri Yukteswar also had, Lahiri Mahashaya also had. But when Yogananda ji went to America, he didn't really materialize a palace. He really worked on the physical plane. And he showed us the principles of how we can work with magnetism, with energy, with the right kind of attitudes, and how those things then attract the right kind of situations in our life. It wasn't like Paramahansa Yogananda or even Swami Kriyananda when he started Ananda. They had all the kinds of funding to start their work. In fact, someone asked Paramahansa Yogananda, like, what are your stocks and bonds? And Yogananda ji said, God. God is our stocks and bonds. And that is what really our answer should be. And it might seem like, wait a second, if God is what is my security? Well, one day the banks may fail. One day, there might be a situation bigger than COVID. I'm not predicting, I'm just, speculating that such things could happen. But what will be our true security? God. God will be our only true security. And starting with that as the premise, that, of course, we have many tools, many techniques, but like Jamal, as he ended to, and he was sharing to, really study these teachings. And I would encourage you also to especially, read the lives of Yogananda ji and Swami Kriyananda ji, because they are very recent. It's not very far away. And there's a lot we can draw from their lives, that, okay, this is how they worked in this situation. And I'll tell you, their life stories are filled with success, one after the other. Even when outwardly it might have seemed like it wasn't one of success, it always turned out to be one of divine success. So, anyways, with that in mind, I wanted to read this from Paramahansa Yogananda ji's book, How to Be a Success. It's not exactly his book. There are various quotes and sayings from different articles and magazines where I mean, there used to be different magazines which Yogananda ji had written, and these are basically extracts from that. And this is on the topic of how to be a success. And it's interesting, Jamal mentioned along these lines when he was sharing, but I'll read a couple of paragraphs from this. Do you know why people fail? It is because they give up. I often say that if I had no job, I would shake the whole world so that it would be glad to give me a job just to keep me quiet. You must exercise your willpower. If you make up your mind and go like a flame, everything will be burnt up in your path. The man of realization walks where bullets fly with the divine will behind him. Rouse this willpower from the veil of ignorance. How can you develop it? Take up one little thing that you might think you cannot do. Try with all your might to accomplish that one thing. Then, when you have accomplished that, go on to something bigger and keep on exercising your willpower. If your difficulty is great, say, Lord, give me the power to conquer all my difficulties. You must use your willpower no matter what you are or who you are. You must make up your mind. Use this willpower both in business and in meditation. And it goes on, but I will stop there. There are lots of things even in that to, stop, reflect, and go in depth. But as Jamal also was sharing, and I'm sure he drew inspiration from this also, was take up one little thing. If there's a big task, when someone comes to our first meditation class, we don't tell them meditate for 2 hours a day or 1.5 hours a day or whatever. We tell them, yes, that's a goal you want to aspire towards, but let's bargain. 5 minutes, maybe you can start over there. And then, once you have that taste, once you have accomplished that, then you increase it. Then you take on bigger challenges, then you learn more. And that is one technique I myself have found in my life more and more to be true, that it might seem like, oh my God, this is such a big project. How can I ever get into it? How can I ever accomplish it? But the first step, if we just take that first step and put out the energy, like Swami Kriyananda ji used to say that many times when I'm giving a talk and I end up saying, so the most important thing is, or he would say something like, now there are two things, and he wouldn't know what he's going to say, like what is the most important thing or what are those two things. But he would go forth in perfect faith and he would say that, and by the time he would have completed that sentence, that most important thing, God would have placed it right in front of him, or those two things or those three things, whatever the number was. So similarly, go forth in perfect faith. And there's an affirmation, and that is one of the techniques also which I wanted to mention. That's a very powerful technique, because many times our mind is going in a particular set pattern. Oh, I can't do this, I can't do this. And even subconsciously, and affirmations help us a long way, that of course I can do this. I'm a child of God. And like Yogananda ji over here said, that he would shake the whole world so that it would be glad to just keep him quiet. And so if we can just affirm that repeatedly, and this is one of the affirmations which I have used it many times, or at least repeated, that I will go forth in perfect faith in the power of omnipresent good, knowing that, oh, how did I forget it in the middle? I'm not Swami Kriyananda apparently, but anyways, I will go forth in perfect faith in the power of omnipresent good, knowing that what I will receive what I need when I need it. Paraphrased at the end, but that is essentially what it is. So that you will receive what you need when you need it. That is what it really is. And start with the little steps, one step at a time, and we'll find ourselves reaching a place where we wouldn't have imagined that we would. When I started my meditation journey, I started with 2 minutes. I was just very restless, and now I can meditate much longer than 2 minutes. So it's just a long way where we have gone, but it had to start somewhere. It had to start with 1 or 2 minutes, and apply this in whatever situation you want to do in your life. I'll share a funny story. Maybe it's not that funny, but it has some things which we can probably draw from, which happened, which is from an incident in my life. Is that we were trying to host a big public talk for Anaya Swami's Jyotish and Devi ji. You must know they are the spiritual directors of Ananda worldwide. And whenever they go to a center, or wherever they go and they do a big public talk, we try to really put out the word, so that people know that there is such a event happening. And one of the ideas which we came up with was, why don't we put just big banners all around the city, so that anyone who's walking on the road will know that this big public talk is happening. And somehow I came up with this thought that if it is closer to the bus stand, which is a public place, it will be very crowded. And if I get it somewhere closer to the bus stand, it will be just everyone will see it. So I just I was in my two-wheeler, I started riding around the bus stand, and I saw this huge building. It was, I think, 5 floors, 5 stories tall. And I think somehow that building belonged to a commercial enterprise. So right in front of this huge building was this lady standing in a sari. It was apparently the building belonged to a owner who used to sell saris. He had a sari enterprise, but the banner was huge. Like, you can imagine, like, the first floor was empty. They had left empty space. But from second floor until the fifth floor, that big was the banner. It was like huge. You could like make 20 people stand above one another and they would still fall short of it. But right below that big banner, there was one whole floor space empty available. And I thought, well, I could use that space. It's empty. Nobody is using that. And it's crazy. Honestly, that was just a stupid thought. The building didn't belong to me. I didn't know who the building belonged to. I just saw that this big banner and I thought I can also have a big banner of Neha Swami, Jyotish and Devi. So I went to and it was a residential place apparently of people who, the owner worked, like the employees of this owner. So he had given these quarters. So to cut the story, it's a long story, but I'll try to make it as short as possible. I went to the security guard, who was the only person I could see. There was nobody else over there. I told him, I want to put a banner over there. Can you please tell me, what are the dimensions of this? I mean, that was too bold of me, as if he was going to give me the permission. Tell me the dimensions of this, what it is. And he told me, this is not for you to do. You cannot put it. This is not your place. I said, yeah, but it's not for you also to say. It's not your building. So how are you to tell me not to put a banner up there? And he said, no, you cannot do it. And he was very upset with me. He chased me away. I said, okay, fine. The next day I went again, different security guard. I spoke to him again and he said, no, you cannot do that. I said, it's okay. I know it's not your position to tell me. And this was my first little step, taking the story from Paramahansa Yogananda ji. So my first little step was to go to the security guard. He said, okay, fine, talk to my manager. I said, okay, give me his number. So I called his manager. The manager, similar reaction. He thought I was crazy. I thought I have the right to put what I have to put. And the manager said, I said, you don't know. Why don't you just, guide me to your superior? And he said, okay, fine. So he said, I'll give you the number of the secretary to the managing director. You talk to him. He'll tell you what to do. So I spoke to the secretary to the managing director, and he said, no, this is a commercial board. We pay the government, taxes and everything to put this hoarding up, and you cannot just like that put something over there. And I said, it's for a spiritual talk, Babaji, Yogananda. What commercial thing? Even the police people would even dare not touch the banner that they commit a sin or something. So I somehow convinced him, and he said, no, I'm so sorry, I cannot help you. I said, how would your owner feel if you decline such an offer? You're not even, it's not like I'm asking you for money or something. It's just I'm putting a banner for a week over there. He said, okay, fine. Come meet my managing director. He'll be in this shop at this point of time, come. So they had this big shop. I walked up there. I entered, and again, the security guard stopped me, and I said, I'm here to meet the managing director. I was like, who's this? I mean, here people are coming to buy clothes, and here he's here like, I want to meet the managing director. So again, the same hierarchy, the security guard took me to the manager took me to the secretary took me to the managing director. I had a flyer, I showed him the flyer, I said, this is Babaji, this is the event happening, would you not like to help? And he was like, okay, fine, please go ahead, do it, but not for more than 1 week. I said, no problem, not for more than 1 week. And it got done. And we had this huge banner. And when I told the printers that I need such a big banner, they said, sorry, we cannot print such a big banner in such a short point of time. So anyways, now the story was entertaining, I'm sure, but let's come to the principle of it. One, let's not, when someone says no, or like Yogananda ji said that, that unless he got a job, he would shake the world literally, So when life, it's not like success is waiting for a platter. Of course, we have to use willpower, concentration, energy, magnetism. But when we are overcome or when we are faced with a difficult situation, take that first big step. In this case, a security guard. Then take the next big step. And I mean, it is very outward. This is not how life usually happens, that, this is how the hierarchy works. But you know what the next difficult challenge is. Take that step, and you will find that energy itself will guide you. Once you take that first step, there'll be a flow of energy when you get in tune with that flow of magnetism. So anyways, these are 3 or 4 important things which, our techniques help us in, which we can use. One is willpower. It's not just enough to wish that, oh, I wish I could do this. Oh, I wish this could happen. We have to use our willpower. After willpower comes concentration, because sometimes we can be all over the place that, oh, I can do this thing here also, I can do this thing, or I can put a banner in this big building, or I can put a banner in that big building. No, this is what I need to do. Concentration. This is my project. And right now, this is what I'm going to do. There's a funny story where Neha Swamiji would be in phases. Sometimes he would be writing a lot of books. Sometimes he would be writing a lot of music. And at one point of time, Swamiji was very deeply engaged in writing music. And one day, while he was writing his music, some people walked into his door. And the look which Swamiji gave, seeing them, was what Deviji shared, that it's as if Swamiji was looking at a B flat, that this person was a B flat, this person was A, or whatever note it was. He was so concentrated that this is what his life was about at that point of time. So full, utter concentration on whatever we do. And as Jamal mentioned about the Hong Sau technique of concentration, that's very helpful too. And then energy and magnetism, which work hand in hand. The more energy we put out, focused energy, the more we attract situations in our life which will take us to our ultimate goal. And one last thing, we don't want to exclude God out of anything. We don't and I would like to end with this, that when Rajarshi Janakananda and Paramhans Yogananda were together once, and Yogananda ji pointed out to him, and Saint Lin, his name was, he was Yogananda ji's most advanced disciple, and he told him, don't forget where your power comes from. And he said, I know, Master, it comes from you. So let's not exclude. These techniques are of course wonderful. These principles are of course wonderful, but they are only half there if we don't invoke the grace of God and gurus in our lives. So with that, experiment, have a lot of fun with these principles and tools and techniques, and we look forward to seeing you next week, same time. Thank you. Joy to you.